All right, welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Live from Redhook here at the Function House. And tonight we want to welcome everybody back, and we want to welcome to our show PleasureJams.
Hello.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure to have you guys on the show.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank
Pleasure
you.
to be here.
So welcome to the Function House. Welcome to our show. You guys were passed along to us by one of our guests that were at one of our shows. One of the network shows. We do a show on Wednesday night, and somebody's like, hey, you guys should take a look and check out PleasureJams and invite them on the show. So that's how we found you guys.
Cool.
It's so cool.
Nice.
So welcome. So have you watched our show? Have you checked it out since we've brought you on the show, and you see how we do it here? We do a little interview. We like to find out how you guys got into the game of DJing, some of your influences, and what you guys are doing now musically, where you guys are playing, what you guys are playing.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess let's start from here. Let's start with you.
Well, my name's Tom Morosi. I DJ as Morosi. Been playing, I guess, close to 10 years now I've been DJing. And with Ali and as PleasureJams, with Alex here, we've been together for maybe about 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you get into the DJ world?
Well, I got into DJing. I guess I was in college in Montreal. We would go out to see various DJs up there. There was a big scene for DJing up there at the time.
Did you go to Circus?
Yeah, I went there a few times actually. I remember
I've
going up there actually in high school to see Kid Koala, who was one of my favorite DJs at the time.
Yeah, I actually saw DJ Hardwell. You know of Hardwell?
Yeah.
Before he really blew up,
Mm-hmm.
he played after hours there.
Mm-hmm.
And I happened to be in Montreal, and I checked him out at Circus.
Yeah. Circus was
And
crazy.
it was right before he was ready to go.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of stuff like at Circus, or then I used to go up in high school. We would see parties that were thrown by Peer Pressure Crew. So I remember going up and seeing Diplo and Chromeo, but kind of before they had really blown up at all. So they were big influences in getting us into it at the time. Also,
Great.
Yeah, so eventually bought some turntables, started messing around, bought records, and eventually got Serato and started playing out a bit more, and
Awesome.
kind of grew from there.
Awesome. So purely on the house music level, or?
I guess at the beginning I was kind of more into the down tempo side of things, but it pretty quickly moved into just house music.
Okay.
Yeah, at the time it was Blog House was big, and mashups and that kind of sound.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So how about your partner over here?
Hi, everybody. My name's Alex, a.k.a. Stewie Decimal, a.k.a. 1/3 of PleasureJams. I feel like I'm kind of the odd member in terms of my relationship to house and disco, because I grew up on hip-hop and even started DJing hip-hop and would DJ parties in college. That's kind of how I got my start playing out DJing hip-hop. And it wasn't actually, I feel like my first revelation of dance music beyond hip hop was actually the Canadian DJ Scratch Bastard.
Okay.
Who's
He's awesome.
He's awesome. He's like a DMC guy, juggling technician.
Yeah, I follow him on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's always putting up cool videos.
He's kind of a goon, but I feel like he's so talented. And he was a guy who put a mix out, and it had hip hop, all the hip hop tracks I loved from the 90s and whatnot. But then he would dip into the disco and electro.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, these are way more connected than I thought, because in high school I thought disco was stupid, or I just didn't get it. I thought it was the Bee Gees. That's what disco was to me. So then I started basically ripping off his playlists. I was like, I'm gonna go buy that record. I'm gonna go buy that record, because I didn't have digital at that point. So I was just trying to buy all these disco records, and then I would mix them in, and they were way more successful at college parties than hip hop was. People always come up when you're DJing rap, and you're like, this is the most deepest cut. They're gonna love it, and no one loves it. And they're like, can you play something we can dance to? And you're like, fuck. But yeah, so anyway, now I do play out hip hop a little, but mostly now it's the house and disco. And I was really into down tempo stuff too, like Bonobo and Fortet and that whole I feel like a lot of those guys had a similar trajectory too, where they were making down tempo stuff, and then they're like, wait, this is kind of boring. Let's make.
Yeah, that was big for a while.
That was
though.
huge for like my whole college. That was like
Yeah.
that was what everyone was making.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it was like, oh, there's that person's putting out a dance album. That person's putting out a dance album, and my interest kind of followed suit.
Yep. So when you said when you play out, sometimes you play hip hop. Like what genre of like year
Like
level of
90s
hip hop are you
and
playing?
2000s.
Okay.
And like golden era stuff, but then sometimes like some like pop hip hop. But at this point, it almost has a different association because it's been so long. Like pop hip hop from the 90s, like radio play from the 90s almost feels old school. Like people call it old school,
Yeah.
even though at the time like it was the complete opposite of that. But it's almost been repurposed.
What are your feelings on the new hip hop that's coming out?
It's good. There's lots of good stuff. I mean, there's lots of bad stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe most of it's bad. There's lots of good stuff. There's lots of good stuff. I'm really into Brockhampton. I'm actually friends with those guys. They're like a young collective of rappers who are making really exciting music, stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of good stuff. The like, I don't know. The like, the Migos is cool. What's the guy who like the Post Malone crowd?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be like, the last thing I want to be is the guy yelling at the cloud who's like, hip hop is so much better back when like lyricism was what it, like, fuck that. Like that's,
You just don't get it.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Well, I mean, you know what it is? It's just like, you know, we're not growing up at that age with it.
Yeah.
So we can't really relate to it like the kids are relating
Right.
to it today. So for us, it's like, you know, ancient. I mean,
Right.
it's like, you know, it's like foreign to us, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
But-
that's what they want too. They
Yeah.
want us to not get it.
Yeah, and you can not like it and still respect it. And
Of
I gotta
course.
try and keep myself in that headspace.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yep. So how about you, Allie?
So I learned to DJ about 10 years ago, around the time that I met Tommy and some other friends. So Tommy and a few of our other friends were doing a collective called Bonjour High, made up on that like Montreal, U.S. thing, and they kind of took me under their wing. And so that was like Bloghouse, Diplo, like anything I could get off of Hollerboard. Always had a real thing for lyrics and like keeping it catchy. So I feel like I became interested in disco a lot sooner than I was interested in house. I kind of thought like
Me
fuck
too.
house and techno is like all the same thing to me for a minute.
Yep.
And now I feel so differently. I feel like house is so soulful and like, so I would say that I'm always kind of dipping in between the two of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, disco is always a great genre of music, and you're seeing disco actually coming back now, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of disco tracks being released, and you have a lot of great producers that are always putting out remixes of tracks, such as Joey Negro
Yeah.
does some great disco
play a lot
compilations,
of
which
his
are
stuff.
which are awesome. So you know, disco is a feel good type of music, you know, and it has sort of a little bit of that R&B tip.
Yeah. I feel like
Yeah.
I was getting into disco, like classic disco, at the same time that LCD Sound System was on the up, like in college.
Yep.
And that like new disco sound was, I
Yeah.
was like dipping into the old stuff and then dipping into the edits and the new disco at the same time. And so I feel like I wasn't alone in that. Like the industry or whatever, the culture was doing
This
doing
was like
something similar.
2007, 2008,
Exactly,
right? Yeah,
exactly.
that was like a wave of new disco.
Yeah.
Like Chromeo and all those guys.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
like at the roots of a lot of dance culture is the base. It comes from disco, you know, so people
Yeah.
are going to go back to that a lot, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah.
what's up with new disco now? Is they're still releasing stuff like Cut Copy and that crew? Like,
It's still around, although I feel like Cut Copy just released something that, like, the last couple things they've done have been totally different from what I associate Cut Copy with.
yeah,
The kind of, like, spinning into something new now. More
I-
so than ever, I feel like the disco edits are just, like, booming, though.
Yeah.
Which has helped resurface a lot of cool old disco edits that nobody really knew before.
well, even Calvin Harris was putting out records back then, like that sound that had that disco sound.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was that song was like it was acceptable in the 80s.
Yeah, that blew
that
up,
was
that
like
song.
yeah, yeah.
That set the
That
new
was
disco
my
era
intro to
off.
Calvin
Yeah.
Harris. Yeah.
And like the lines are blurred too, where it's not like this is disco and this is house. It's like house music with disco rhythms.
Yep.
Or disco music with house elements in it. It's a lot more. I feel like it makes it, as a DJ, you can cross back and forth so much easier now.
Yep.
It's not like people are in this like nostalgic disco land and suddenly you drop this house track and it's like what the fuck? Like you can totally
Yeah, you can
move
weave
back.
through.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
what do you guys enjoy playing most?
Personally, I like to open with disco stuff, but I really enjoy playing like deeper house music, stuff that's kind of that's going to sample something older and kind of give it a fresh, like a newer take to it, basically. But I mean, when it gets a little bit later in the night and the crowd is really like with it, that's the kind of stuff that I really gravitate towards.
Yeah, same. I mean, disco is kind of like the skeleton key music. I mean, unless there's haters, which there can be, and they're like, "Why are you playing like my dad's music?" Like I've heard people say that, and you're like, you have no idea what you're talking. But like, yeah, if you can open with disco, I feel like if the crowd is feeling like you're in the right room and people are open to what you're trying to create, and you can almost, I don't know what it is exactly. It's kind of hard to describe. Like I'm sure every DJ has their own articulation of like that relationship with the crowd. But if you feel the conversation happening and you can take it somewhere like deeper or more experimental, and like not to say it's not rhythmic and it's not powerful, but like less like identifiable. Disco music, like so many of the rhythms, like hip hop especially, we almost subconsciously recognize those rhythms in hip hop. Or we hear the disco music and we're like, oh, I know that because that's been sampled.
It derived from that.
Yeah, it's derived from that. And house music is kind of like the genre where it starts to really depart from the existing sound.
Yeah.
And so it can be more challenging for a room to get into. But when they do get into it and they open up to it, like you're just in complete control and it's so much fun.
And I think you get to experience that with crowds that become more mature and educated in the music world. You know, because when you deal with different age groups, you know, depending on the age group you're playing for, as they mature with the music, they start getting an open palette for the music, right, for their ear. And then they go on the journey with you guys as DJs, right?
There's nothing worse than playing for a crowd where it's people coming up with requests of just stuff that they know and they're not really open to hearing anything new.
Yeah.
You have nothing to work with, really, and I don't really pay attention to much of the stuff that they probably know anyway, so I'm not going to have it.
On the flip, we had a night in Montreal in May at Bar Dacha, and it's primarily a techno club.
Okay.
So that they showed up like ready for anything. And so when we played disco, like they just lost it, and we had like people
in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way, like coming up and shaking our hands, and it was such a fun night. So we could go wherever.
How great did that
like
feel?
150 person club with like 250 people in it.
I feel like the techno crowds, like so much respect for that, and I am part of that crowd sometimes. But like, I feel like when you're so used to that, and then like a house set is presented to you, you're like, oh my god, I forgot that like this is easier music can feel so good.
Yeah.
Too.
Well, Montreal's got a pretty good hip crowd to music.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they got Stereo, which is a club that's, you know, been a staple in that town for
20 years. I think.
20 years,
20 years.
Yeah.
Brooklyn's coming up. I mean, even in our short careers here, I feel like from my own perspective, I only have been in the city 10 years, but when I first moved here, as far as I knew, like there were no clubs
in Brooklyn. Nothing.
In Brooklyn,
yeah.
And then it was like Output was like the one, but now like fast forward 10 years, and there's like 20, 30, if you start to include the sort of basement with a good sound system vibe, and the crowds are like improving with the venues as well. So people like even my friends are like, oh yeah, I want to go out and dance in like a slightly more sophisticated way, not to sound arrogant, but like, you know.
Yeah, the dance scene in Manhattan it's done. Like,
it's more of a bougie commercial scene.
I can't remember the last time I
Manhattan.
wanted to go out there, really.
And we played in Manhattan a couple times, and it's so bad because it's much more like we played in this place, and it was such clearly a disco vibe, like disco ball, sound system, DJ booth, the decor and everything, but like it was just like 20-year-old white blonde girls coming up to us like, like, can you? We were playing a disco track, and she's like, can you play something with words in it? I was like, where? You know, like what? Oh, it's a very confusing and frustrating night.
Yeah, I mean, in Manhattan, you come across a lot of managers too that are on the DJ's case to play this and play that, and I feel like in Brooklyn, it's just they hire you to do you. In these clubs.
Yeah,
and it works.
Well, there's been, you know, there's like a house music movement in Brooklyn that's been happening over the last, I would say, 7 to 8 years, right? And everything's gravitated to Brooklyn, and it's great, you know.
Yeah,
it's great.
We play a lot at Come On Everybody in Brooklyn on in Crown or Bed-Stuy, Clinton Hill kind of borderland. And the owner Eric gives us free reign. Like he's like, just throw the party.
That's really where like PleasureJams grew up. It came to be who we are now.
Got together
Yeah.
with
Yeah. we were playing the front room there. Like we were nobodies, and I feel like in many ways we kind of still are. But like we were just like, we're like, hey, we were playing the front room, you know, with a band in the back. So every time the door opens, you're just like, you can't hear a damn
Clashing
thing. And
sounds.
it's like, all right. But eventually, I guess Allie, you're the one who came up with the idea to throw like where we would host somebody. How did that go down?
Yeah, so I knew Eric, one of the owners of that spot, from Vermont, because he used to manage a band that I used to do some work with when I was younger, and he was like, yeah, you can play up here whenever you want. I like you guys fine. And I was like, how do we play that room? And I knew that we probably couldn't get like a couple hundred people together at that point.
Right.
So we just started thinking about like, all right, if we could have anybody come play that we wanted, like what would we do? And that started to kind of take off, and pretty soon they were like, all right, you can have a residency, like let's do every month. And we were like, are we ready for every month? But it's been super cool because we get to meet all these people that we really admire. And then if they're in Brooklyn, like they become a friend, and it's pretty inspiring because they've all been pretty cool, pretty nice people.
It's a good setup. So like, because like she said, we can't necessarily fill a room consistently. I mean, once in a while we get lucky, but like, so we would book a DJ that is a little more known or a lot more known, and they would headline, and we just open and throw the party, kind of like this weird like DJ promoter hybrid.
Yeah,
and it worked out.
And
great.
you're curating the night, so
Yeah.
it's
Like
it
Juan
builds.
McLean's come through a couple of times. Jacques Renault, Justin Strauss, like
Nancy Wong.
yeah, Nancy Wong, the from LCD Sound System.
That's
I
great.
think my heart was beating like out of my chest the time.
Yeah, that was our first like really big night there
Yeah.
too, where it was like you
It must've
couldn't
been
move
packed
in the
out. It was
room.
packed.
Yeah.
She has
Yeah.
crazy draw. It was amazing,
Yeah.
and she was an amazing DJ too. So it was cool.
Who came up with the name?
PleasureJams. I did. If we were actually talking about this before, we're like, make sure to have like a cool, like origin story. Don't be one of those people who's like, oh, I just made it up. That said, I don't know. I feel like I was inspired. My friend had a radio show in my hometown in high school called Deluxe Luxury, and I was just like really into the pairing.
That's a great name.
Yeah, no, I was like, damn, like I was almost mad at him because I liked it so much, and I don't know, it's just like jams is like a slang for like play some, you know, I mean it's pretty self-explanatory. It's not like some double meaning, but we just.
What does jams mean?
Jams? It's actually on the one hand it's a type of fruit preserved. On the other hand, it can be used to describe cool music. I was like, wow, that's so
And
yeah.
you
we
have
just,
pleasure when you eat it.
and
right?
yeah, it's just like, I mean, the layers just kept peeling back, and I was sort of taken by it. Now we just like, I had a bar gig at this place, Splitty, on Myrtle, and we just had a bar night. We're like, PleasureJams, so it was just kind of like assigned to it. Just
That's
came
great.
up with it. Yeah.
That's
It's a
great.
cool name. I like it.
And
Yeah.
it doesn't restrict us to any one genre really, so we can kind of,
Yeah.
you know, it's not like we have to play only disco. It's anything pleasurable, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the beauty of being a DJ, to go outside those boundaries and just play everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Play what, you know, the crowd asks for and have
Mhm.
fun with it.
We
Yeah.
used to I feel like early on we did it more than we do now, where we would like, especially when you and I DJ, we would like play disco for a minute, and then we'd be like, all right, like, and we'd like flip it at like 1 a.m. to like the dirtiest hip hop music we could.
Yeah,
The
like,
dance floor would back up. We're like, all
going
right.
back to like the hip hop discussion, I totally love all that Migos, like Drake, whatever.
Fair.
And so if it gets to that time, like I don't always have it nowadays, but
Yeah.
back in the day, I usually had a bunch up my sleeve, and then.
Oh, you
I
can
had
still
some
bring
old
it.
school.
Yeah, you had the Dipset on lock, and I
Oh
was
yeah,
like,
Dipset. Yeah, I've got my fair share of Dipset.
yeah. Yeah, I was like, let's listen to a Tribe Called Quest. I was like,
Yeah.
no, Dipset. That's
You
what
look
the
like
people
the
want.
last DJ that would play Dipset, though.
Yeah, probably so.
Probably.
That's great.
I think it's because when I was younger, my friends and I, all we did was snowboard basically, and I tried to skateboard, and I feel like Dipset was in those old like Tech Nine snowboard movies.
Yeah.
All the like gangster snowboard kids,
Yep.
all Dipset.
So you were trained professionally in
Yeah.
Dipset.
Yeah, I feel like I learned about a lot of music from ski and snowboard videos and skate videos,
Yeah.
especially.
Alex and I met when we were 18 years old at a ski mountain in Oregon that's like a glacier. It has snow all summer. And he was already starting to DJ back then. So we hung out like 18, 19 years old, didn't see each other again until we were both in Brooklyn. So probably like 7 or 8 years later.
Yeah, with like
Wow.
radio silence, like we didn't even.
Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
We must have been Facebook friends or something.
Yeah. That's how we reconnected. I think I saw on Facebook that you were DJing with Bonjour High or whatever, and I was like, wait, I think you're doing the same thing I'm doing. let's do this.
Yeah.
Wow, it's crazy how it
Yeah.
comes full circle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is.
So what you guys have some gigs coming up? You want to talk about those?
Do. Well, the next one, we're playing an in-store at Superior Elevation on Saturday
Okay.
up in Bushwick. And then Saturday night, we're going to be playing at Rose Gold with Dino Socio, yeah, from LA, who throws the Pleasure of Love parties out there, also
Okay.
a pleasure party. And then further down the road, we're going to be in Texas for
Going to South
by
by
Southwest.
Oh, that's dope.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hope that's cool.
And then
We're like, yeah.
we'll see.
Get mixed reviews. I mean, I don't know if they're whatever. This it's gonna be.
It's going to be awesome.
It's gonna be tight.
Accepted. We're in.
Yeah.
And
we are
before
excited.
that, we're going to be going into Costa Rica also.
That's right.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, another one. And Black Flamingo, February 8th with Better Listen Records and Joe Cordy from London. That
And
would be super fun.
and Bossa Nova in January. I forget the day,
Oh,
but
and okay.
yeah.
Sorry.
Wow, so you guys are gigging.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
play like I feel like we're at like the 1 to 2 a month plan right now.
I don't know.
Sometimes
yeah.
more,
That's
sometimes less.
like a good amount to play per month, so
Are
you're
you
not like
booking all the
exhausting
gigs
people.
yourself? You doing?
Yeah.
Sometimes we reach out. Yeah, I do a lot of
Allie is definitely
Allie
the
books
queen.
it.
She's the reason that we're here.
I do a lot of the booking, and now people reach out to us a little more often than they used to. Come on, everybody, and Good Room have been our mainstays.
Yeah, Good Room is
Good Room's a blast.
The blast,
Super
the
fun.
best.
So the Good Room has been part of like the house music revolution
For sure.
in Brooklyn.
For sure, yeah.
I mean, they've
Yeah.
been doing some really special stuff there.
Yeah.
They've had some really great DJs there,
exactly.
Yeah.
and it's just been growing and growing.
And that's the kind of spot that is you would be a fool to go there not understanding that this is going to be a dance party and the DJ is in control.
Yes.
Like everyone goes there and it's packed and they are very willing.
And people are dancing there.
There's nothing else to do. You can go
Right.
stand on the bar, I guess, but like
They're
you're
dancing.
Yeah,
they're not like
dancing.
staring at the DJ,
Mhm.
right?
Well, there's
They're
no like
dancing.
couches set up, is there?
There kind
There
of
are couches
in the
yeah.
back. It's
on the
it's a
perimeter
perfect
though.
setup,
It's not
yeah.
like it's not.
It's
on
not
in
VIP.
the way anywhere.
It's just like
Yeah.
just a place to rest for a second and then
Yeah.
go dance.
So there's the good room, and then they have the bad room.
Bad room.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
we
they're
played both.
play both. Yeah.
I don't
Some
know.
interesting
We haven't
times.
talked about what's more fun. I think maybe we just opened for a hot chip, so it was packed out like at capacity, and in the main room, and that was really fun.
That was fun.
But I've had some times when Justin Strauss and Billy Caldwell are playing. They go as Love Tempo.
Okay.
Playing the bad room, and it's just like everyone's in the bad room, and it's so fun.
Yeah,
Because they're amazing.
Yeah, they're amazing DJs.
Yeah.
that's great. So what do you guys have in store for us tonight?
It's going to be pretty much 100% Dipset.
You don't mind that, right?
Cameron just dropped a new album.
Yeah, well, the Function House, is about playing what you really want to play.
Cool.
So we're open to anything that you guys want to throw on the decks. That's
Cool.
what the Function House is all about. So we're
Tommy,
excited.
Tommy's going to kick it off.
Yeah.
What are you going to start with, Tommy? What's your opening track?
Got some tricks up my sleeve. You have to
Yeah.
wait and see though.
All right, Very excited.
All right, cool. We're gonna take a 2-minute break, and we're gonna get them up on the set. Peace.